We begin this broadcast with some big news for the tech industry. Apple has to change the connector on iPhone sold in Europe by 2024. EU countries and lawmakers have decided on a single charging port for mobile phones, tablets and cameras, essentially all electronic devices. The European Commission believes that it would make life easier for consumers and save them money. However, the company is also raising concerns about possible electronic waste that the shift might cause. Our next report gets you up to date with the latest.
Europeans will soon be able to forget about packing a jumble of different chargers for their gadgets. The EU on Tuesday agreed rules that will require a standard charging port for phones, tablets and other devices. It's a world-first move which Brussels says will save consumers around $267 million per year. Euro MP Alex Saliba set out the change.
So today we have made the common charger a reality in Europe. European consumers were frustrated with multiple chargers piling up within their homes. Now they will be able to use a single charger for all portable electronics, which is an important step to increase consumer convenience.
The move follows complaints from iPhone and Android users about having to use different chargers. Most Android phones use some type of USB port, while Apple favours lightning cables. Now the US tech giant won't be pleased by the EU ruling. It has long argued that such a move will stifle innovation. But Internal Market Commissioner Thierry Breton says there are big benefits, which go beyond consumer convenience.
These new rules will save more than 1,000 tons of electronic waste per year. Could you imagine? Just for one regulation? Yeah, and also in addition to an annual reduction of almost 200 kilos of CO2, which is an equivalent of 10 million smartphones, and 2,600 tons of raw materials.
By the autumn of 2024, USB-C connectors will be the standard. Since the rules will also cover cameras, e-readers and other gadgets, they will also affect makers like Samsung and Huawei, not just Apple. The EU will also have the power to harmonise wireless chargers, which are fast catching on in popularity.
And for more on this, our correspondent Rosie Burchard is now joining us live from Brussels. Rosie, thanks for joining us. This, of course, is a big move for the tech industry at large. EU countries have decided on a single charging port for mobile phones, tablets, cameras, other electronic devices as well. How is this move being perceived?
Well, this is certainly welcome news among plenty of European consumers. As your report just rightly pointed out, many people are familiar with that feeling of going out, heading with a jumble of different chargers. For example, Apple has a different charger from Android phones. So this particular piece of legislation is really going to particularly impact Apple, which has its Lightning charger. So that is right. That particular charger here. From now on, from 2024, that is the autumn of 2024, all devices in the EU will have to use USB-C. That's this type of charger. The idea here is to give consumers an easier state of affairs for their day-to-day life, but also to reduce e-waste, although of course by implementing this in the longer term, those Lightning chargers from Apple and other devices which will now no longer be compatible in future, those chargers will also have to go. So there are some concerns there about e-waste in the short term, but in the long term the European Commission says this is guaranteed to reduce that electronic waste.
Absolutely. I want to talk about the short-term problem as well, because that's quite significant. Is there a plan to tackle the issue of electronic waste? We all have a spaghetti of cables in our homes, as you've just shown us. Apple, of course, has been a holdout in all of this when it comes to shifting to Type-C chargers. So what lies ahead?
You're quite right. Apple has been holding out. Apple has in the past argued that this EU legislation would essentially clamp down on innovation. It seems, however, now that tech giant is getting more on board. There are reports that Apple is considering new iPhone types with this USB-C charger, and of course that will be according to EU law within the next couple of years. There has also been criticism around laptops. So when it comes to laptops, this EU legislation will take longer to apply, so 40 months after the legislation is adopted. And some campaigners have argued that this is essentially down to lobbying by the tech industry towards the EU, but European industry chief Thierry Breton has argued against this. He says the European Commission is not working for lobbyists, it is in fact working for consumers. Another criticism here when it comes to wireless charging. While the EU says it will have the power to regulate on wireless charging in future, that is not currently included in this particular legislation. And that means, of course, that the legislation may be out of step by the time it comes into force, with many manufacturers now moving towards wireless charging. When it comes to that electronic waste, the European Commission highlighting that in the long term, this is absolutely a piece of legislation, a plan, a major move forward, which it says will reduce electronic waste and save consumers millions every year.
Right, absolutely. Rosie, thanks so much for all those inputs. Thanks for joining us on WION at this hour. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.